Pornography addiction creates a very specific, very deep kind of pain in a marriage. It is a pain that touches into the most personal aspects of yourself, your body, your attractiveness, both physically and personally. Trust is shattered by secrecy. The bedroom becomes a place of anxiety and triggers rather than connection, and the emotional devastation of that betrayal impacts the very foundation of how you attach to one another.
And when the addiction stops and time passes, if intimacy doesn't return, and yet you want to stay together, that becomes a major loss and is tragic in itself. Couples get stuck in like a sobriety gap. He's stopped the behavior, the harmful behavior, but they haven't found their way back to each other. And when they do, it's uncomfortable, maybe in different ways. So today we're going to walk you through a complete roadmap for rebuilding that intimacy, including the step-by-step exercises you can use to rehumanize your connection with one another. And do stay with us to the end, because we're going to share the specific grounding techniques that stops a trauma trigger in its tracks during an intimate moment as well.
So to start this conversation, we have to distinguish between two things that couples almost always confuse, which is sexual sobriety and sexual health. So if you tried to build sexual health before you've established sexual sobriety, you might have a great time, but it's often just like thin ice over the underlying relationship issues. So Caleb, can you break down like why that foundation is so critical?
Yeah, so sexual sobriety is the foundation phase. It's about complete abstinence from pornography, masturbation, and orgasm outside of marital intimacy. Sometimes abstinence from marital sex as well. Quite often. Think of this like a neural reset. So porn addiction hijacks the brain's dopamine pathways. It trains the brain to prioritize intensity over intimacy. And so you need like a 30 to 90 day period of sobriety to allow the reward system in your brain to normalize and recalibrate so that real life connection can actually produce genuine arousal again. You need to also learn that you can survive, you can live without sex.
And for the betrayed partner, that sobriety establishes the safety they need. They need evidence that boundaries can be maintained before they even think about being vulnerable. They need space to work through the damage that they've taken through the discovery of the porn use. But then we move into the restoration phase, which is sexual health. Yeah. So this is where you move away from just not doing the bad stuff and start building sex as like a mutual, embodied, and emotionally rich exchange.
Yeah. And this is about rehumanizing this experience. Porn trains your brain to see sex through a lens of objectification and often control. Real intimacy offers none of that control, which is exactly why it feels so valuable, but also why it initially feels inadequate to a brain that's conditioned by pixels. You have to commit, you have to give time for that recalibration to happen.
And even when the behavior stops, the partner is sometimes left with what we call like screen comparison trauma. So this isn't just insecurity. This is like a logical response to discovering that their spouse sought sexual fulfillment through images of other people. And then they start asking, like, is he thinking of those images right now? Or how can my body compete with what's available online?
Yeah, just super tough. It often creates a state of hypervigilance. So the betrayed partner becomes a detective in the bedroom, and they're like super tuned to watch for signs of drift or disinterest. And then the brain tries to explain that, and it just can spiral so badly. So research actually shows that about 40% of betrayed partners experience persistent intrusive thoughts that mirror like PTSD symptoms. So they might visualize or imagine the pornography even if they've never actually seen it.
Yeah. So how do we heal that? So for the betrayed partner, it starts with grounding. Like learning to focus on your own physical sensations, the feeling of the skin, the sound of your breath, rather than spiraling into what you imagine your partner is thinking. And for the recovering partner, healing comes through active validation, not just general compliments, but specific, honoring appreciation for your spouse's physicality and presence.
Yeah. And we also, in this too, we have to talk about mental boundaries here. So
Yeah.
Like rebuilding intimacy requires a fantasy-free zone in the bedroom. Metaphorically in the bedroom, it could be anywhere. But this means that marital intimacy is about the two people that are together there in that moment, not about a third party or a mental reel of old images or videos or whatever that might be.
And for the recovering partner, like this is hard work because the brain doesn't just delete those images. So when an addictive fantasy pops up during intimacy, you have to have a plan. So you can use thought stopping. You redirect to a physical sensation. You verbally check in with your partner. And this is a big one. Keep your eyes open. Because eye contact anchors you in the real relationship.
In the moment.
Yeah.
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 And if that intrusion persists, I mean, we've talked in other videos about setting a baseline of honesty in the marriage. Here again, you have to be honest. I'm having a hard time staying present right now. Transparency, even when it feels awkward, is the only way that trust actually grows. And it could be that you're just honest. Like, I have to do a little bit more work on this so I can stay fully present with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough. Not saying that's going to be easy to do, but necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even in those moments though, like transparency, yes, but not so much like, oh, well, exactly what are you thinking? What is the, like, there's respect
I got
on both
recovery
sides.
to do, work to do right now because I want to be fully here with you.
Yes. Bring it back to the relationship. Attachify.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
Yes. So let's get into the how to.
Yeah.
So one of the most effective tools we use is Sensate Focus.
Sensate Focus. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was developed by Masters and Johnson. And in the context of porn recovery, it's used to like rewire the arousal template. So it removes all the pressure for performance or orgasm and focuses entirely on touch for touch's own sake.
Yeah. So step one is non-sexual touching with clothes on. So you schedule 20-minute sessions with each other, maybe a few times a week, whatever kind of fits. One person touches, one person receives the touch, and then you switch. And you focus on non-erogenous zones like arms, feet, or back. And the goal here is just to learn to stay present and verbalize what you feel as this is happening. That feels warm, or the pressure there is relaxing, or it just feels so nice to have you touch me gently like that. Those kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can move to step 2, which is skin to skin contact, but still avoiding breasts and genitals. So this is where you practice the eye contact we mentioned. If your mind wanders to a pixel or a trauma, you gently bring it back to the physical sensation of your partner's skin.
Yeah, just learning to be grounded, connected, and restoring safety.
Yeah, but
in that
and
moment.
by focusing on the physical,
The sensate.
the sensations,
The
the
sensation.
sensate, yes.
Yes, it's
But
the
focusing
touch.
on that sensation, not
Yep.
where your mind is going. It's a grounding.
It is. Like, what I love about this is it's really inviting you into the moment and then fully into your body.
Yes.
Trauma and porn addiction, like betrayal trauma and porn addiction, are both like out of the moment, out of your body experiences.
Okay, out of body experience. Do you want to clarify that?
Like a trauma response, you can be like sitting or standing in a perfectly safe space, but you're in another mental space with all of the fear raging around you because you've been triggered.
Right.
So that's, in a sense, it's out of your body because here and now I'm actually safe. I'm in my house, for example.
Or it's out of context.
It's out of context, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's a better
Okay.
way to put it. But some people can feel a little dissociated,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
tunnel vision, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then pornography is like also like it's in a hijacked part of the brain. It's not a conscious of your whole life.
Yeah, whole person. Yeah.
People are unaware of like where they are quite often because they're like in the addiction. They're just there for the dopamine hit, the adrenaline, that kind of stuff is going on. Whereas like this kind of sensate based restoration moves towards physical intimacy is so much more in the body and in the present.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're training your brain back to those things, which are much more deeply satisfying than the highs that you get from porn, and much more deeply grounding than the unfortunately, I have to borrow a word, the arousal that you get from a betrayal trigger, like the activation in your system.
Oh, like the escalation.
Yeah. Psychological arousal, not like sexual arousal. Yeah.
Okay.
So only when that feels safe and connected to do that level of touch do you move to step 3, which incorporates more or more intimate touch, but still without the goal of intercourse. So you're building comfort here. You're proving to the nervous system that touch doesn't always have to lead to a scripted sexual event. And you can, when you spend some time doing this work, finally, then you begin to integrate sexual intimacy while maintaining that high level of communication and of being fully present with one another. That becomes the next step after this.
So the way you talk about your intimate life during this time will either create safety or reinforce the pain.
Yeah, for sure. And so we're going to put a graphic on screen here just to show you the difference between a healing approach and a harmful approach to these conversations. Like as Verlynda's saying, like the conversational piece is very critical too. And often we don't learn like the words and language around being together and physically intimate, like, because until you're in that context, you really don't talk like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So when it comes to expressing needs, a healing approach sounds like, I feel safe when you maintain eye contact during intimacy. That's a very healthy, healing thing to say.
Right. Instead of a harmful approach, which may be like, you never pay attention to me.
Yes. Not saying that pain can't exist, but the blaming there makes it
The
hard
blame,
to connect.
yeah, that causes separation, not connection.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Or for example, if you're facing a trigger, you could say, I'm feeling triggered right now. Can we pause and just breathe together for a moment here?
Rather than like silent withdrawal or just trying to push through the distress, which usually leads to a shutdown later.
Yeah.
But when there's withdrawal, like your spouse can sense it.
At some level.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's like there's a lack of connection. If nothing else, it's like, I can't get through. There's something between us.
Yeah. So just finding a way to put that on the table as something to work through together is part of rejoining here.
Yeah.
For celebrating progress, you might say, I felt really connected during our time together last night. So that can be a very positive way of reviewing your experience and just affirming what you enjoyed.
Yeah.
Appreciated.
And focusing on the positive rather than focusing only what's still broken.
Yeah.
In the
So
relationship.
having moments of hope.
Yeah.
Or if fears come up, just being able to state those fears. Like, I worry about being compared. I'm really noticing that right now. Can we talk about this for a moment?
Rather than like a harmful thing is like the accusatory interrogation.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Are you comparing me with somebody? What's in your head?
Yep.
All the questions.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned, like, on the recovering addict side, like for setbacks that you have, being honest. Like, I had intrusive thoughts, but I redirected tonight when we were together during sex, and I just want you to know that. So it's providing transparency and disclosure.
And this is so much better than hiding the struggle just to avoid a reaction.
Yeah.
Like, yes, maybe you didn't get a reaction, but you also didn't get connection.
Yes. And what I kind of love about these contrasts is how much they lead people more towards vulnerability and surrender, which leads you to that intimacy.
Yes.
Which is, again, going to feel like so strong and so rich that the brain is like, man, that is better than this thing that I used to do, that I used to look at.
Right. Then
And
the
so
false high kind of.
Yeah, it's reinforcing a deeper and a positive neural thing where it's like, you anchor on that. Like, I will always pursue this because it is so much richer than like this maybe had a hit or a high. It was intense, but there's so much shame, so much consequence, such a disaster over here. But this is so pleasurable, satisfying, meaningful, fits my values, brings us closer together.
Connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of like the benefit of like going through this process of really latching onto that. I often tell guys in recovery that your brain will continue with its current reward until it finds a better reward. And this is the better reward that we want to be able to eventually get to. It takes work to get there, though. It doesn't come right away. Now, beyond the bedroom, you have to address the environment too. Mindfulness is a word that gets used a lot, but here it just means staying grounded in the present. So If you're dissociating during intimacy, you aren't healing, you're not fully present there. And granted, this might take a little bit of time, but simple exercises like breathing, deep breathing before you engage can help regulate the nervous system and just create that sense of safety. So making sure that you're feeling grounded in your body.
Yeah. Of course, our assumption here is that a well-established sobriety is in place and that the addict in recovery continues to practice rigorous honesty. So that ongoing work creates a protective container for the marriage to heal within.
For sure. For sure. So there are challenges that come up around this. And I mentioned like this does take a little bit of time. And that is one of the more difficult parts is the timeline. You might think, you know what, like he's been sober for a month or for a few months. Why do I still get triggered? Or, I'm doing my work. Why isn't the passion back between us?
Mm-hmm. But recovery is not linear. Sobriety stabilization usually takes at least 90 days. Sensate Focus, what we talked about, like stage 1, 2, 3 there, it usually starts around month 4 or even later. And for many couples, feeling normal again takes 1 to 2 years of consistent work. Be patient with the betrayed partner's healing pace. Rushing sex to prove the marriage is fixed usually backfires.
Yeah, it does. It does. And if you're the betrayed partner, please hear this. The addiction is not your fault. It is a dysfunctional, a maladaptive coping mechanism. It's not a reflection of your worth or your beauty in any way.
Yeah. And if you find that the intrusive images aren't going away despite your best efforts, that's usually a sign that you need traumatic or trauma-specific therapy, like EMDR or somatic work. That isn't a failure of your marriage. It's just a recognition that some wounds need specialized care.
Yeah, they do. They do. So the journey from broken trust to restored intimacy is one of the longer, sometimes more difficult things a couple can face in all of this. But we see this happening every day in our agency. Couples who do this work often end up with a level of honest communication and intentionality between them that they never had before the addiction was discovered. They moved from, like we say, from intensity to true intimacy together.
And if you're ready to take that next step, we have a complete roadmap on our website. If you're ready to take that next step, we offer free 20-minute consultations to help you figure out like which therapist is the right fit for your situation. You can find all of those links at therapivo.com and in the pinned comment below this video.
And please remember that reaching out for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's the first step towards strength. And this is how we normalize therapy, which is really about learning that everyone can benefit from therapy and nobody should be too proud to ask for help when they need it.
We'll see you in the next video.